From deep in the heart of Central Texas, it's the Best of the Outdoors podcast, brought to you by Texas Fish and Game Magazine, the voice of the Texas outdoor nation. I'm your host, Dustin Vaughn Warnke, author, outdoor writer, videographer, speaker, blogger, and podcaster, and I'm so excited that you took the opportunity to download our show or stream it online, however you are listening. Thank you so much for doing so. Well, our podcast is back this week. As I promised on the last show, we would do a special edition of the Best of the Outdoors for the Bassmaster Classic because it is being held in Texas this year. And this is a big deal for us. The Bassmaster Classic has never been held in Texas before. So the Bassmaster Classic will be held in Lake Conroe this year, which is a good bass lake for Texas. It has a wide variety of features and everything in it. It's a really neat lake. I fished it a lot, as I'll say in the interview, with my fishing ministry, Crosswater Outfitters, which we do our Friends and Neighbors events there. We don't typically do soldier events there, but it's a great lake. I've been all over it, and it'll be a great lake for bass fishing for sure. I'm excited that it'll be here this year. And Alton Jones is a former Bass Series Elite angler and winner of the Elite Series. He's also a former winner of the Bassmaster Classic Series as well. And I'm really excited to have him and his son on this show because they are a wealth of knowledge of fishing and freshwater fishing. There's not a better, bigger thing that's going to come to Texas than the Bassmaster Classic. So this is a huge deal for us, and I'm really excited to have them on. And this is going to be a big, fun time. I'm really excited about this. Two guys, a father and son duo. They are the fourth father and son duo to fish the Classic together. In the Bassmaster Classic history. I'm really excited to have these two on the show. I connected with them one night last week, and as they were headed down to the Classic, and kind of got their viewpoints on everything fishing related. And I think you'll really enjoy this show. Here's my interview with Mr. Alton Jones and Mr. Alton Jones Jr. Joining me on the phone is Mr. Alton Jones and Mr. Alton Jones Jr. Thank you so much for joining me on the Best of the Outdoors podcast.
Hey, it's our pleasure to be here. Yeah, we're glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is great, and I definitely wanted to do something. I said on the last podcast episode I wanted to do something around the Classic. I didn't think of releasing a podcast the next week after, because normally the show comes out every 2 weeks, but I just already had the idea. My manager with Texas Fish and Game had the idea to have you two on, and I just thought it would be awesome. So how are y'all both doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic, and I know he is too. It's Bassmaster Classic time of the year, and for the first time in my 26 years as a Bass Pro, the Bassmaster Classic is right here in my home state of Texas, so that's even better.
Isn't that awesome?
It's really exciting. Getting, tomorrow marks my, kind of the debut of my Classic experience. We start practice tomorrow, and so really just trying to run all the scenarios through my head.
Oh, that's great. And the Classic is, of course, on Lake Conroe. And do either of you know that lake very well? I fish it quite a bit because of my jug fishing ministry, Crosswater Outfitters. We do a lot of catfish jugging on that lake in December and January. But other than that, I've never really fished it for bass. How about you guys?
Yeah, I've actually only seen the lake one time. I came around for just kind of a pre-practice ride around in the end of December. Just kind of rode a circle around the lake and marked a few spots that I thought looked great, hypothetically for this time of year, and that was that's my entire experience on Lake Conroe.
Okay.
And I've actually fished a couple of Toyota Texas Bass Classics here, so I've got 15 or 18 days under my belt on this body of water, but never in the spring. And spring is my favorite time of year to fish, so I feel like I have a pretty good handle on what to expect. One of the things I like about the Classic is that it goes off limits, 2.5 months before the tournament. So
right.
It really is it out. And, guys aren't allowed to get information or anything like that. It's really, it's who can figure it out best once everything gets started.
That's great. And so is the whole lake closed off for bass fishing completely, or just for the Bassmaster Classic participants?
Yeah, just for the contenders.
Okay, just for the contenders. Okay, I was just curious how that worked, because I noticed that in the story that I read about you two today, that it was closed off, 2.5 months before, and I was like, well, that's interesting. And I guess they don't want everybody, pre-fishing and kind of figuring out what's hot and what's not and everything on the baits. Is that right?
Right, and during that period, we can't even can't talk to locals.
Sure.
So it really equalizes it because guys have to figure out their own patterns, their own lures, it's makes it great competition.
Oh, absolutely. And so this is a father and son duo competing at the Bassmaster Classic. And how do you two feel about that? Because you guys are only the fourth father and son duo in Bassmaster Classic history, from my understanding. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe that's correct. And, it's really exciting. Like he said earlier, he's been fishing for 26 or 27 years, and he's never got to fish one in his home state. And, for my first Classic to be in my home state, wherever, all the friends and close family can travel.
Sure.
And then you add in that I'm competing against my father. It just makes it a really, really special week. And you couldn't ask for a better scenario.
Oh, that's great. I mean, I'm glad y'all have a positive attitude about it. And I knew from reading the articles and stuff that I have about you two that it would be a positive scenario because you both are there to help each other in every way you can, as far as you raising your son, Mr. Alton, raising Junior to become a very, prolific bass fisherman. And I just think it's great to see a father and son, in a competition like this.
Well, one of the great things about fishing and something that's been a big part of my life with fishing is that it's a great way to develop relationships. I mean,
absolutely.
I look back, my granddad's the one that taught me to fish. And I taught my son to fish. So for us to not only have it as a family pastime, but actually be able to compete against each other is special. Now on the water, we have a lot of fun together and we'll help each other out, but make no mistake, we'll be fiercely competing against one another too. I mean,
head to head.
I love my dad and I hope he does well. But of all the 52 other competitors, I hope I beat him more than anybody.
Yes, and I hope my son finishes second.
That's healthy competition, gentlemen. That's really good. I love it.
But also another thing though, I feel kind of as a dad, I feel like I've got two chances to win.
Right.
I would love to win the Classic, but it would be special to me too if he were to, to do really well. So it's really a mix of emotions for me because there's the competitive side and then there's the dad side, and both of those come into play.
Oh, sure. I can just imagine the amount of pride you feel to have your son on this journey with you. And, I got my start in fishing. My dad was a semi-professional bass fisherman all through the 80s and 90s, and him and his running buddies would all go run down to Lake Falcon or Lake Olmsted or any of these lakes, and they'd have ongoing jokes. And, I mean, they were just bassaholics. That's all they did is fish. And I grew up around that culture, I guess, of bass fishing and the skill that it takes to catch fish. And I kind of got addicted to that myself. And I kind of went more the catfish and carp and, those kind of other angling opportunities that are around in my adult years. But when I grew up, my dad was the biggest influence in my life of being an outdoorsman, and I could definitely say that's probably the case with you too, right, Alton Jr.?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that.
I mean, to see your dad compete at that level, that's just got to be it's got to be great for both of you, for the feelings of pride, for both to see your dad and then for you dad to see the son, come up in the ranks. So that's great.
Yeah, it was real special growing up too. Fishing for a living for a long time has been my dream, and I can vividly remember when he won the Classic in 2008.
Right.
Kind of feeling this. I'm sure it's not what he was feeling, but feeling a similar excitement. Watching him fulfill his dream, which was also my dream, and hopefully someday I'll get the chance to hoist that trophy as well.
Awesome, that's great. And I'm just curious to back off the Classic for a minute. Y'all both live in Texas, correct? Y'all both live in the north-ish Texas area, right? North central Texas.
Yeah, we live in Lorena, which is a suburb of Waco.
Sure. Yeah, I know. I live in the Austin area, so I know exactly where that is. I used to travel to Waco.
We're only 2.5 hours from Lake Conroe. So.
Okay.
It's really nice to be this close. If I forget something, I can always drive home and get it.
That's right. A lot of other anglers don't have that opportunity that you guys do. That's awesome. No, that's really good. And this is the first time for you both to fish the Classic in Texas. And also I was going to ask, what are your favorite lakes to fish around Texas? I'm one of the freshwater fishing hotspot editors for the magazine. And I was just curious what your favorite go-to lakes for bass in your neck of the wood are.
In my neck of the woods, Lake Waco's got some great big fish in it. When I get the chance, though, I'm traveling to Sam Rayburn or Toledo Bend. Those two fisheries, you really just can't beat them, not only in the state, but in the entire United States.
Yes, they are world class. That's what I've heard, too.
Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of like your dad, I guess. When I get the time, I go south. I like to go down to Falcon. It's probably my favorite place in the world to catch bass.
Those lakes are so humongous compared to some of the other lakes, and the water, is the waves are a little bit taller than a lot of other lakes, a lot of other freshwater lakes, and I've noticed that. And but they're huge lakes and they're great lakes to fish. And those border lakes like Olmsted and Falcon are some of the most amazing lakes I think we have in Texas as well. Not to knock Lake Waco or Rayburn or Toledo Bend, but I'm kind of in agreement with you.
And bigger lakes, usually it makes it harder to find fish, but when you do, on big lakes, you find bigger schools of fish.
Yes.
A good day on Lake Falcon is a whole different scenario than a good day on Lake Waco. A good day on Lake Waco, you go out and catch 12 or 15 bass. Good day on Falcon, you go out and you catch 115 bass.
Yeah, when you get into them good, right?
Right.
That's great. No, that's awesome. So one of the questions that our editor-in-chief liked to ask at ICAST this year was, what is your favorite bait for Texas water, for Texas freshwater? Do you like to throw a jig? Do you like to throw a crankbait? Just what overall is your go-to bait for Texas?
I'll let Junior go first on this one.
One of my favorites has to be a lipless crankbait. Anywhere, especially there's grass in the state of Texas, even if there's not grass,
right?
Any of those flat reservoirs, it's a killer. Really year round.
Okay, and that would be something like a rattle trap. Could I say that's a lipless crankbait?
A booyah one knocker.
Okay, that's a good bait. And yes.
For Dad, I'm gonna have to go with some of it depends on time of year, but if you're only gonna let me have one choice for Texas waters, it's gonna be a yum dinger, which is stickworm,
okay.
And I prefer the 6-inch version, especially in the spring. From about February through the end of May, there's very few days that bait won't outfish almost anything else you throw.
Very good. I just wanted to kind of see, and I'm not asking what your secrets are for Conroe. I'm just kind of seeing what your go-to bait is for Texas waters, because you guys are both pro anglers. So
don't worry, we're not going to tell you what our secrets are for Conroe.
Oh no, I wasn't going to ask. So, and I think it's great that you guys both have your own. We asked that question in Texas to a lot of pro anglers at ICAST. The Texas question of what is your favorite bait, and most folks answered almost overwhelmingly answered crankbaits. But that's definitely was what most of the anglers that we asked that question said. So I thought that was interesting. Alton Jr., your answer.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's especially in the early springtime, it's hard for me to put it down.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. For the bass fishing that I do, and I don't do a ton of it, but I love throwing lipless crankbaits myself too. So it's a go-to thing. And so tell me what your basic strategy is when you cover a lake in a pro. I'm not saying for the classic, but just in a pro scenario. Do you try to cover a lot of water to see what they're hitting on, or do you try to focus on certain spots of standing timber and that kind of stuff, or just let me know? I'm just curious what your mode of operation is.
My very first approach. A lot of the lakes we fish are far too big to covering a lot of water there is still only going to be a fraction of the lake. So my first order of operations is definitely to look at a topographical map, and my Garmin electronics they have some of the best mapping in the business, and I try to visualize it through those maps and break it down as fast as possible. I can look at a map of a 100,000 acre lake and eliminate a lot of, I can eliminate 80,000 acres of that lake without ever having to look at it based off of, what I'm seeing with the map.
On the topo map, right.
Right. And from there, I'll try to pick a key area, maybe a key 3,000 or 4,000 acre area of that lake where I'll definitely want to spend my first day. And for my first day, I kind of let it, I guess, kind of snowball into days 2 and day 3. Kind of, I guess, see what the fishing's like, and kind of go from there.
Sure, just kind of adjust as necessary.
Right.
Yeah, along those lines, a good strategy for me, a good strategy in bass fishing, period, is get around some fish and fish there.
Yes.
The 3 most important things in all of bass fishing are location, location, and location.
Location. Oh, I love it. Like real estate. I love it.
Yeah, well, it really is, because you can take a very inexperienced fisherman, you can take a small child with a Snoopy rod, whatever. You put them in an area that's got a lot of fish on it, and they're going to have some degree of success. And in contrast to that, you can take the greatest fisherman in the world and put him in a place where there's no fish, and he's doing the right thing, and he's not going to catch anything. So to me, finding an area that's got a lot of fish in it is the first thing I try to do. And then once I'm in that area, once I figured out there's a lot of fish there, then I try to fine-tune my patterns, try to figure out exactly what baits are working best, how deep they are, that they want something moving fast, something slow crawling on the bottom. So it's all about fine-tuning from that point.
Very good. No, that's exactly what I wanted to know. That's perfect. And do you guys have bait preferences, rod preferences, those kind of things? I'm just curious to see what y'all fish with, if you wouldn't mind telling the audience.
Yeah, both of us fish with Kistler rods.
Yeah.
And he got hooked on those, I guess, from fishing with me and using my retreads, for so many years. But I'm 53 years old now, and so having something really lightweight is more than just about feeling the bite for me. It's actually about helping me fish long and hard all day, and so that's what's really important to me. And they're made right here in the Houston area,
in Magnolia.
Yeah, Magnolia, Texas.
Oh, really?
Is the home of Kistler rods, and so. But we use a variety of lengths and actions. Just depends on the techniques we're using.
Right. And as far as baits go, I mean, you could sit here for a week and list out all the different baits we carry in our boats. Do you have an answer of a specific bait you use? For the state of Texas. I mean, we already kind of touched on that, but
right.
Yeah. Yum Dinger's mine. Yeah.
Yum Dinger's yours. Okay, cool. That's a cool bait. And I just enjoy asking what your preferred gear is and your preferred, just to see how you guys think and how you process this stuff on a pro level, because I don't get to talk to a ton of pros, and I just think it's great. I really appreciate you guys, divulging some of this stuff to us, some of us guys that aren't quite at the pro level. No, that's great. And do y'all have a preferred boat? Do y'all like to fish out of a bass boat for the most part, or do you have a preferred?
We both fish out of a Skeeter FX20 with a Yamaha 250 SHO.
Ooh, nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's a heck of an engine.
we go to some places that have a lot of rough water,
right.
And so we need something like that Skeeter FX that really cuts through the waves good, but it still will. It just drafts just a few inches of water, so you can get in some really skinny places. Fish does really well in the shallows, and
it's kind of the best of both worlds, with what we're running. We want something that's fast and stable and can handle big waves and can fish shallow. And
right,
there's no better boat out there.
Oh, that's great. So the Skeeter is your boat of choice.
Yep,
absolutely.
That's great. My dad was a Skeeter guy for a while until he moved up to Oklahoma from Texas, and he that was his favorite boat to take around to all the different water. Didn't matter what had happened, what kind of water he was in. He was really happy in a Skeeter. So I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah. It always amazes me how tough bass boats are.
Yes.
Like out on Conroe, there's so much timber and so many stumps, and we'll be rocking and rolling as we're idling into places, going up over these stumps and bumping over logs. And, it's amazing how tough they are. It's like having a battle tank,
That's a good way to look at it. That's great. I was going to switch gears with you and ask you what type of advice would you give to a young angler? That's something that we ask at ICAST this year as well. What kind of advice would you have for somebody just starting to want to become a pro angler and or just starting out in fishing?
My biggest part of advice, and from my experience so far, is that there's a lot of people that want to be professional anglers, yet they fish, once or twice a month. And,
right.
There's really no replacement for time on the water. You can spend as much time reading Bassmaster magazine and,
sure,
all kinds of YouTube how-to fishing videos, but until you're out there experiencing it on the water for yourself, I started fishing professionally in 2015, and I fished 9 Bassmaster Opens, and through those 9 events, those 9 weeks of fishing on the water solid, I learned more in that than I did in my entire life previously. And,
so it's about the real experience, is what you're saying.
Right, absolutely. And
yeah.
The more time you spend on the water, the better angler you're going to become. There's only so much you can do, reading stories and looking at things on the internet, which I feel like a lot of people do, which it's good too, but there's no replacement for time on the water.
No, that's true.
This is Dad. Now, the information that people read on the internet, the problem is everybody's reading that same information.
Exactly.
But your personal experiences, nobody else is getting that.
Right.
My answer to young anglers, I would definitely say he's right. There's no substitute for experience, so spend time on the water. But another really important one is to finish your education. And I even pushed my son, to do this. He graduated from Baylor with a degree in marketing. But the real successful business plan in fishing, yes, you have to be able to catch fish and win tournaments, but you have to be able to market yourself to sponsors and then market their products to the general public. And
right.
Those are some skills that getting a degree can really help you get a leg up on a lot of the other competitors.
I've heard that too, and I definitely think education should be first and foremost, because you never know, where your career will take you. And, what I've heard some pro anglers also say at the ICAST show this year is that it's also important to be able to sell what you're in charge of selling when it comes to a bait or a lure or a boat or a rod or whatever the case may be, whatever kind of gear that you have, because you have to just learn how that works, and how to be a good marketer. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's a fine line between, the key to, being good at selling is keeping things authentic. And
yes, absolutely.
And that's the biggest thing. And I feel like with all the companies we align with, it's really easy to be authentic because, I truly believe we work with the best in the business.
Right.
Yeah, you have to really believe in the products you're using, or you're not going to sell them successfully.
And in turn, you're not going to be in business long, right?
Right.
Because you need good sponsors to perform, right? I mean, you need that to be successful. Is that true?
That's what pays the bills.
Okay. That's what I was going to... It's kind of like in magazines, the thing a lot of people don't understand. I work in advertising for my main gig with Texas Fish and Game, and, a lot of people don't realize it's not, subscribers, it's not, T-shirts, it's not any of that other stuff. It's advertising that pays the bills. So,
right.
And so it all boils back down to sales of some kind. So,
yep.
We even had an article, I think it was in February or this month's issue, the March issue, about an award from our sponsors was what it was called. And Roy Neves wrote it about, thanking all of our sponsors, and we couldn't do it without them. If the magazine would be like $100 a piece, if we didn't have sponsors subsidizing, that cost. So,
absolutely.
I just kind of thought that was funny. So,
yeah, and it's really the same way for us. I mean, without Skeeter and Kistler Rods and Miracle Ear Hearing Aids is actually our title sponsor this year.
Oh wow!
There's no way we could do this.
Sure. So just that's the advice, because I know a lot of young people listen to the show, and that's just kind of what I wanted to give is some kind of advice to them that are just starting out, that have aspirations, because as well as I do, guys, the internet's filled with YouTubers that have millions of views from their little GoPro camera fishing videos, but what really is where the rubber meets the road is when you get into competitions like you guys are doing, where you're against, the most elite anglers of the sport, and
right.
that's where the rubber really meets the road. And that's why I honor you guys for what you do, because that's the real deal right there, as they say.
Well, thank you. And another thing to me that I would encourage young anglers to do, and anybody really, I think for me, I really needed to search and make sure I was where in life where I thought the Lord wanted to be. Try to be in God's will. And,
sure.
our faith is very important to us, and you know, I don't try to claim myself as being some great fisherman. But I do try to be where God wants me, and I know if anytime I catch fish, do well in a tournament, I just consider it a blessing.
Sure. That's a perfect way to look at it, because I'm very much about attitude when it comes to, the stuff that I put out on this podcast, and having a positive attitude and believing in a higher power, I think, are very important, especially when it comes to the outdoor pursuits. Yeah.
We need to live for something larger than just fishing and just ourselves.
Absolutely.
And, so.
No, I 100% agree with you, because that there has to be a bigger picture. You have to serve something greater than just fishing, at the end of the day, the way I look at it. Because, tournaments are great and fishing is awesome, and I love it. I live to do this stuff, but they're keeping in mind that there's a higher power behind all of it that has a good will for your life, a good, purpose for your life is what I'm trying to say, is important as well.
And that allows us to really try to pour some positive things into other people's lives, and that to me, what the platform of fishing is really all about. For me, is being able to make a difference in the lives of others through what I do, and for little Alton also.
Absolutely,
little Alton, I love that.
Junior, he's as big as I am, but he doesn't know that.
Yeah, as a sidetrack, I noticed that in your article, you, Mr. Alton Senior, did not like to be called Alton Senior. Is that true?
I can't buy senior coffee at McDonald's yet, so we're going to leave senior off until I can.
You're going to cut the senior stuff off. Okay, I understand that. That's great. But I thank you guys so much for joining us. I don't want to keep you too long or too late, but I really wanted to spend some time with you, and we've done that and kind of unpack a few things. Would there be any parting advice you'd like to give our audience at all about fishing and the Bassmaster Classic?
I hope you get a chance to come see us. The Classic, being it's the first one in Texas, there's probably a lot of listeners right now who maybe haven't experienced it. But come to Minute Maid Park and watch the weigh-in. You're going to learn a lot about fishing. Come down to the convention center and go to the outdoor show. It is the biggest event in all of bass fishing, and it really is fun. There's a lot to do there for the whole family, the wife, kids, everybody. So come down and see us, and hope I get to meet a lot of you in person while we're here in Houston.
A lot of what he said too, you just got to be there. You can't really explain how big the Classic is until you see it. And and if you're one of those young prospective anglers and you think you want to do this, there's not a better thing you could do than to come walk around the boat show and just go meet people. That's a lot of what this sport is connections too on the inside of it.
Right.
Go shake hands, go introduce yourself, and that gets you a good foot in the door for when you do start competing at a higher level.
Sure, absolutely. No, that's great. And I saw Minute Maid Park. I was in Houston last weekend for the Houston Fishing Show, and holy smokes, that place is huge. I mean, this is just going to be amazing, To have it in Texas for the first year, too, is a huge deal for us here in Texas, as you guys know. So
yeah, I have a feeling that they'll have another one in Texas coming up pretty quick once they see how big it's going to be.
As far as the turnout and everything goes at the expo and that kind of stuff, yeah.
And the big fish.
And the big fish, absolutely. That's what everybody. So if I'm understanding this right, the guys are basically going to be fishing. You guys are going to be fishing in Conroe and then driving with your fish in tow to Minute Maid Park. Is that right?
That's right. And the live wells on the skeeters and all the boats that'll be in the Classic are great. They keep the fish very very lively and healthy. And then the state will actually, at Minute Maid Park, they'll put them into a big live release truck. Okay. And it's a huge, like a fishery center truck, and they'll bring them back and disperse them back around Lake Conroe.
And to go with our skeeter live wells, I always make sure to use the additive G juice. It's made by TH Marine. It increases the oxygen and levels out the pH levels. And it also stops bleeding if you have a fish that's injured and bleeding. So it's a great thing to keep those fish healthy and alive.
It does all of that. Wow, that's crazy. Wow. Mm-hmm. That's incredible. Yeah, TH Marine is actually one of our sponsors in the February issue, and I hope to have them come aboard as well with our magazine for some more sponsorship. But they've got some great products over there for sure, so I wanted to mention that too. But thank you guys so much for spending some time with us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Okay, you bet. Well, thank you, and it's been our pleasure, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody at the weigh-ins.
And there they go, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Alton Jones and Alton Jones Jr. from the Bassmaster Classic. And actually, I didn't mention on this show yet, but they mentioned to me off air that Alton and his son will also be fishing the Bassmaster Elite Series together. So that's only been done by a couple of times by other father and son groups, and that's exciting to see as well. So that is really, really a neat group of guys, and it's great to see the legacy be passed on from father to son, and to see father and son competing in such a big bass tournament. This is like no other time in bass fishing history, really. So it's really exciting. So if you've not done so, please subscribe to Texas Fish and Game Magazine. We are going to be at the Bassmaster Classic show, the expo, and I'll be down there with my manager, and our team will be down there doing some stuff, and we'll have a booth if you want to swing by the expo booth for Texas Fish and Game. You can sign up and get a subscription right there at the expo for 1, 2, 3 years, anything like that, and sign up there. Also, if you've not done so already, please subscribe to the Best of the Outdoors podcast. It costs you absolutely nothing to do so. We release a new show every 2 weeks, except for this week where we're releasing a show every week because we had the Bassmaster Classic and it's a big deal. And really excited about having you on for the ride for the future shows that we're going to do. We got some great guests coming up in the future, and I'm really excited about this opportunity to share all this with you. So please subscribe. You can do so in your favorite podcasting app. If you don't have a podcasting app, search your app store, Google Play, for a podcasting app, and just go to the download section of the bestoftheoutdoors.podbean.com, which is our main kind of website that has all of our podcasts from the past on there. And I invite you to go back and listen to any former episodes of the podcast that we've done, because we release one every 2 weeks and have done so for going on a year, coming up in a few months. And really enjoy having you as part of the ride of hunting and fishing in Texas outdoors, and really excited about that in the future of the show. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for reading. Thank you so much for watching, and have an awesome day in the outdoors.